Well, Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins has been a crazy journey of ups and downs. You could say it's been chaotic.
Chaos.
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 Chaos and
Chaos.
Chaos. All I care about is seeing Chaos dead.
To be honest, I went into Stranger of Paradise expecting a prologue to the original Final Fantasy I, which it is, but it's also a journey through all 15 mainline Final Fantasy games. The game features one location or dimension for each Final Fantasy. This game is actually a celebration of all of Final Fantasy, and it aligns with its 35th anniversary. As a proper Final Fantasy fan, I was getting blasted with nostalgia through echoes of remixed music and memories of some of these old locations. There's Final Fantasy VI's Forgotten Continent, or even Final Fantasy IX's Evil Forest, which I instantly recognised from the little tree trunk wells. Dimensions are filled with classical Final Fantasy monsters too, from cactuars to tomberries and behemoths.
a behemoth!
Best of all, I got to partially revisit some places special to me, like Final Fantasy XI's Chains of Promethea areas. The visuals and music brought me right back to about 2004 or 5, when I was exploring Prometheum Crags and Delphux Tower for the first time. It's nice to see Final Fantasy XI get some love. As an MMORPG, I've poured thousands and thousands of hours into it, but its existence is barely even acknowledged from Square Enix sometimes. It often feels like a black sheep game that's usually just forgotten about, at least compared to other Final Fantasies. They got me good with the nostalgia, because I've even started playing Final Fantasy XI again, which is probably going to end up being a huge mistake I've sucked myself into. Okay, reeling it back to Stranger of Paradise, it's a mix of good and bad. One of the most standout negatives would be the game's dialogue and writing. This has some of the worst character writing and dialogue I've ever heard. There's a scene where Jack, that's the main character by the way, he's told something and this is how he responds.
Bullshit.
This edgy twat just walks away blasting music from his phone. I've just got no words for it. This is Final Fantasy Story Writing 2022. Stranger of Paradise starts with 3 edgy adventurers who've forgotten their past, and all they know is they want to kill Chaos.
That's all I know.
Me too.
And that's all they'll talk about. They want to kill Chaos.
My mission is to kill Chaos.
That's how the entire game's exposition is set. This is a Final Fantasy where storytelling isn't at the front line. The real selling point here is that this is Final Fantasy's take on Dark Souls or the Souls formula. Combat is reasonably challenging and there's some pretty decent boss fights. We even get to fight the 4 legendary fiends from the original Final Fantasy I. They also made an appearance in number 9 too. I've just replayed Final Fantasy IX, so that's fresh in my mind. Combat is a bit faster paced, and it's from the developers behind Nioh, so you'll pick up on a few familiarities if you played Nioh before, like how the item level based loot and equipment works. Quite a few things are borrowed from the Dark Souls formula, and one of the reasons it just works is because of the pre-existing Final Fantasy job system. So in Elden Ring or Dark Souls, I really like that we can play our own custom characters, from fire mages to heavily armoured knights. It adds replayability and agency behind your character customization. This is something that translates into Stranger of Paradise. You can swap between classic Final Fantasy jobs, Red Mage, Black Mage, Paladin, the legendary Dark Knight. You can even swap between 2 preset jobs in combat, and I love this. Certain strategies, weapon types, or magic elements are going to be stronger against certain types of enemies, so swap to a more suited job on the fly. On the topic of magic, the way you cast spells in this game is pretty awesome. You point your analog stick in a direction to start casting a certain spell or element, and the longer you risk standing still and charging up a spell, the more powerful it becomes. Fire becomes Fira and then Firaga. Pat yourself on the back if you're familiar with blue mages. They're mages in Final Fantasy that specialise in learning monsters' abilities and recasting those monsters' abilities in combat. Stranger of Paradise has blue mage-like mechanics baked into its core gameplay. Just tap the circle button to use your soul shield and you can catch enemies' abilities for your own use. The soul shield is something unique that Stranger of Paradise brings to the table, and it's pretty awesome at times, like throwing fireballs back at bombs so they'll self-destruct. But for everything this game does right, sadly it does something wrong. Despite all the nostalgia behind these Final Fantasy locations or dimensions, the actual structure or level design behind locations is a bit lackluster and repetitive, especially compared to Dark Souls or Elden Ring. There were a few times I got lost and looped around the level multiple times looking for a small path or something like a lift button, and it got a bit frustrating with the maze-like map structure and repetitive designs. Final Fantasy VI's Forgotten Continent comes to mind. As a Souls-like, Stranger of Paradise really is a bit chaotic. General gameplay and boss fights are pretty good. I love the nostalgia behind the job system and having a stage from every mainline Final Fantasy, but the story, writing, characters and dialogue are really weak, especially for a Final Fantasy game. I do hope they take what they've learned here into future games, maybe even Final Fantasy XVI. I'd love to see the Soul Shield mechanic return. I've had a pretty good time, but I'd only recommend this if you've got a bit of history with Final Fantasy games, or if you can pick this up on sale. Peace for now.